Hello folks, so I'm going to start with introducing you guys to Adobe XD. Adobe XD is a prototype generating software. So this is primarily what you're going to kind of use this semester to generate prototypes that you could send to a developer to have them develop the actual code for it. Which is nice to kind of like show how something is going to interact and how it's going to work before like for any kind of client that's going to be doing this stuff. So all right, so we are basically, what you might be seeing here is the Adobe XD interface. Once you do start it up, you got your box here that's basically starting a new document. If you do want to explore it more beyond what I'm going to be dealing with this in this class, you could go to Learn and learn all kinds of things about it. All right, so we could start a new file if we want to. So basically what I'm going to do is actually going to use one of the preset ones. Right here is a web format, which is 1920 by 1080. But as you learn in like web design, web windows don't really, or web sizes don't really factor in much because, well, screen sizes are different, and websites need to, well, basically use the buzzword of being responsive for websites. So we're going to go ahead and just start with a basic web 1920 by 1080, and I'm just going to click on that, and it should launch this little window. All right, so what you're going to see on the side is you're going to find all your tools over here on the left. You're going to find document assets. Document assets are kind of a nice thing that I'm going to talk about later, just not in this particular video. But they're a way of actually having things connect across the board in all of your web pages that you go ahead and create here. Such as colors and fonts and all that kind of stuff that's actually going to carry across as cohesive or universal throughout the whole website. All right, so we start with this particular window here. And we have a number of tools. The selection tool, which will basically allow you to select certain objects. Right now we are in an artboard type of viewing, which we're going to cover that here in just a minute. All right, you do have the option of a rectangle tool, which you basically can go ahead and add any kind of rectangle elements to it that you want. But any of the tools that you generate will become a little bit more I should say content sensitive with these palettes. These palettes over here on the right will change depending on what kind of tool you have chosen for what you're trying to do. All right, so what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to use this rectangle, and I'm just going to go ahead and just create something. All right, so I would just go ahead and create any kind of shape here. That shape can allow me to go ahead and resize it. I can rotate it if I want to, just like so. And I'm going to Command Z or Control Z on that, and then you can stretch it any way you want. There are little circles here, and primarily I'm going to kind of step away and say this program has some similarities with Adobe Illustrator. So if you're familiar with Illustrator, this kind of will help you out a little bit. So these little buttons will allow you to actually create rounded corners on your boxes. So you can create nice little rounded corners if you so want to, as well as stretch this out wherever you desire. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go basically just kind of like move that in place there. Maybe that's not what I wanted to do. Stretch this to make this a little bit smaller because maybe I want to go ahead and that's not what I wanted to do. I'm going to move this. So I'm going to go with my black arrow and just kind of like move it down a little bit. All right. Now you can also go here and create circles if you so want to. If you hold down Shift, you can create a perfect circle, depending on what you want to do with it. Now, with any one of these like shapes here, you can actually generate any kind of color you want with them. But the color is over here on to the right side. As you can see, there is a fill and there is a border option. If you click on fill, you can get this little thing that will allow you to basically choose whatever color you want. But in the web world, we deal with what is called hexadecimal. Hexadecimal numbers are these characters right here, CF1616. That is what is called a hexadecimal number. These are what computers or programming languages, primarily HTML, know a certain color based on its hexadecimal value. So you can choose whatever color you want. Just know that it's going to be a hexadecimal number when you create that. Okay. So we have that. And then we can go to our black arrow and move this around wherever we want to put it in a certain placement. All right. The rectangle here, or polygon, it's like basically you choose a polygon, and it's right now it's triangle. I said rectangle, I meant triangle. All right, so this is an interesting one. It can create triangles. However, you can create more than just the one. So when I let go of the mouse, you'll see that it creates this like triangle shape. But if I go over to my right side, you'll notice that there is an option for corner count, where I can increase it to, let's say, 8. Choose another box, and I can round it a little bit. And I can give it like the percentage of its, what the percentage of it is. All right, so here you can set the corners and the rounded elements of it. Now I'm going to delete that one because you can also do this on the fly. So if I go ahead and click, hold, drag, before I let go, I'm just going to do my up, down arrow keys. So you can see that if I put the up arrow keys, it adds more sides. If I go down arrow keys, it will delete the number of sides in that triangle. If I hold down the Shift key, it will go on to, it will scale in proportion to do whatever I want with it. So I'm going to delete that because I don't really want that right now. You can create a line if you want to, because nothing is more precious than an actual line that we actually use. So lines can be included within your design, and lines will be pretty much generated by code when it's actually said and done. Actually, a lot of these will be generated by code when the developer gets involved with it. Okay. Now, what's also interesting is that we do have a pen tool. Pen tool is more or less like a dot-to-dot tool. So it's like if I go ahead and click, it'll kind of like follow me around. And I can go and click. And I can also click and drag to go ahead and create like organic type shapes, if I so want to. I can also fill it with the color, very much like Adobe Illustrator. And we can change this around if we want to. And I can move this whole thing around. All right. Now text here. If I go ahead and I just click, it'll give me my blinking cursor. However, a lot of times if I go ahead and add in text here, it'll just keep going. More or less what I should or wanted to do. And you'll find in web design what we want to do is we want to create what is called text blocks. So if I go to my text tool and I click, hold, drag, you can create what is called a text block. So now when I go ahead and add in my text here, it'll continue to wrap and take up that space. This is ideal when you're dealing with type of web pages, because you do not want text that can kind of like span the whole distance of it. All right, we want it to basically stay in a certain area within a block. All right. Okay, so Now, a lot of times what we have to do is like, web pages do require that you have more than one page. There are some pages that do what is called single scrolling pages, where basically it'll just scroll, it'll do one long scroll. Those are not really ideal for search engine optimization. So separate pages are better when dealing with SEO. So if I go to my artboard tool right here, and I can go ahead and when I go ahead and just click out here, you'll see that what it does is it adds in more pages. And I'm going to zoom out a little bit so I can use that. So I can zoom out here. Now, a lot of times what will happen is like, what if you have this page, and web pages are not exactly just this size. They're more tall than they are wide. So what if I wanted to go ahead and actually resize it? So I can choose this one without a problem. And I can click, hold, and drag and create it much longer. But what about this one? This is my original one. If I double click on it, it will go ahead and allow me to kind of like choose that. Now, what is this? This is a dotted line. This dotted line actually represents your scroll line. So it will show initially that top portion, and then anything below it is a scrolling function. So it's like if I were to see this in this live format, I could basically, it'll scroll beyond that. Now I can go ahead and add anything I want to these particular layouts, such as more text and stuff like that. There we go. And create more text, or put text in there. So I can put more items below the scroll box. And that's below the scroll line. And that's okay. We can do that. That is not a problem. All right. So that is basically an overview about what this does. Now, with the text here, before I kind of go any farther with this, all right, so the text here is also seen in this particular area here. Now, what's available are these particular fonts that you can use in this particular, because of what's on my computer. All right, so you can choose any font that you want here, but just know that it's not possibly going to be web safe for the future. So you can choose what size it is, its kerning, any of the other options here, all caps, small caps, and all that stuff. So I encourage you to kind of play around with it and see what you can do. One of the other questions that I often have is like, how do you get images in here? Well, images you kind of have to plan ahead a little bit and outside of it, but you can still utilize your images. So I'm just going to put in one, but you have to go File, Import. And you'll go ahead and just find a box or find an image and place it in there. Now you can size it down to any size that you want, like so. And that will scroll out. Now, of course, when we have to, what if you want to go ahead and, let's say, crop it per se, all right? So what you can do is go ahead and I would say you can do vertical or horizontal scroll. This will allow you to kind of like crop that in a little bit more, but it will scroll in that particular area. You can fix its position when scrolling for that particular image. All right. So it'll allow you to kind of like place that in there and crop it and do whatever you want with it. All right. So up here, if you have certain areas like this particular box right here, which we created, which I was going to put in as kind of like as navigational area. So I can make it a certain color, but when I put it back, it's behind it. So if I wanted to bring that to the front, you can go Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. And that'll allow me to kind of like place this in front. So I can actually utilize that somehow. And you can make it, I'll say white. And then let's see if I can, change its opacity. So it becomes a little bit more translucent. You can see a little bit behind it, which is kind of nice to do. All right. So I encourage you to kind of like play around with some of the tools and kind of get used to it a little bit. Because what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to assign a new project for you that you're going to kind of start to use Adobe XD a little bit more in, advanced type stuff. So, all right. So I'm going to quit for now. I encourage you to kind of like play around with some of the controls, get used to it. At least this kind of gives you a starting point. And believe me, you're not going to ruin anything by just playing around with stuff. So I would say go ahead, play around with some of the stuff. And I'm going to talk later about more advanced things within Adobe XD. All right. I'll talk to you guys later.